Et donc, vous avez pris
Right, everyone, thanks for your patience online and in the space. Officially, hello, bonjour tout le monde, and welcome to the pilot edition of the Art Vault Grant Writing Program. On the menu today, we have panel discussion with several major public granting bodies, and we'll chase that with a tabling fair for those of you who have joined us in the space today. We're so pleased that you could be here. Thank you so much for coming out on this beautiful November day. To situate you, we are streaming on YouTube Live from Concordia University's fourth space, which is located on unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Nous reconnaissons la nation Kanien'kehá:ka comme gardienne des terres et des eaux sur lesquelles nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui. And we make this acknowledgement really to bring awareness and understanding of the history of Indigenous peoples and their territories, and as well as a call to action to rethink one's own relationship with the city, the land, and environment. At Fourth Space, if you're new to Fourth Space, welcome. We collaborate with our university community to activate the research projects and initiatives in development across the university by co-creating daily events. It's a lot of fun. To that end, we're so pleased to have the opportunity to collaborate with Art Vault to hopefully help you demystify the arts funding landscape today. So it's now my pleasure to pass the floor to Supervisor in Strategic Initiatives, Fine Arts, Mark Weiser. Over to you, Mark.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much, Anna. So as she pointed out, my name is Mark. I'm the supervisor of the Strategic Initiatives portfolio at the Faculty of Fine Arts. And we're really happy to welcome you all here to this opening event of the first and hopefully inaugural Intensive Art Vault grant writing program. So over the next month, starting today, we'll invite you to attend 4 public workshops that are going to cover all kinds of different topics, from ideating a proposal to building a budget to building out a portfolio and writing an artist bio and CV. And in addition to that, a smaller cohort of people will follow an additional series of work sessions that will see them have access to one-on-one mentorship as they build their grant proposal. And those people, in recognition of the time commitment that they're putting in, will receive a small honorarium. This is a pilot project, and so we're all sort of experimenting here. We hope it goes well, but we're also really open to learning and improving it because we hope to repeat it for next year. This project is really in recognition of the fact that we've heard from a lot of recent alumni that one of the gaps in their knowledge is how to interact with the major public funding agencies and how to write about their practice so that they can make money from grants and continue to work as artists. The activities of the Art Vault are made possible by a really generous and visionary donation from the Thompson Innovation Fund, and we're very thankful for that. This particular initiative, the grant writing program, is made possible by a donation from Leslie Rendon, who is also a representative of the Thompson Innovation Fund, and so we're very thankful to Leslie for that donation as well. We are happy to have with us today our Dean for the Faculty of Fine Arts, Annie Gérin. And in addition to her career as an art historian and a published academic, she is also a really dedicated administrator and particularly dedicated to making sure that recent graduates from fine arts schools have the tools and the skills they need to go on to make satisfying and productive careers for themselves. And so it's fitting to have Annie with us today. And so without any further ado, I will pass it on to her. Annie.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. As Mark said, my name is Annie Gérin, and I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Fine Arts at Concordia. I want to thank you all today for being here at this very, very special launch. As Mark said, this is a pilot. We want to learn from this experience, and we're very, very excited to have you all here with us to share in this adventure. I also want to thank our audience that is joining via live stream. The Art Vault platform is unique amongst all fine arts universities or faculties in universities in Canada as a resource for recently graduated alumni to gain skills and experiences that will allow them to build sustainable career paths, whether they are artists or whether they choose to work in arts adjacent fields. So over the 3 years or so since we launched Art Vault, we've reached some 700 graduates through this platform. And they joined us through programming such as mentorship opportunities, professional training, discipline-specific residencies, and more recently, a professional sales and rental platform for artists entering the commercial art world. So that's the Art Vault collection, in case you don't know it. We're constantly modifying and increasing our offer. We're also constantly interrogating our methods to ensure that we're reaching as many recent graduates as we can possibly do and have as much impact on the ecosystem as we can. So this is how this grant writing program came about. Through the realization that many of our graduates feel intimidated or well-equipped to transition from their academic practice to the world of public art funding, despite the fact that applying for Arts Council grants is often an integral part of a professional artistic career in Canada. And so this program and this panel discussion is about demystifying the process. Our hope is that by interacting with your peers, learning from the experience of faculty members and mentors in your field, and having the opportunity to practice, critique, and build your personal portfolio, the task of putting yourself out there and defending for funding your artistic practice, that it will become simpler and even that you'll be able to integrate it in your regular art practice. We're fortunate in Montreal, Quebec, and Canada to benefit from the presence of funding bodies that exist to support, with grants, creating practices. And we're joined today by members of a selection of those organizations. So 3 of the major players in this field when it comes to funding your career through grant monies are the Canada Council for the Arts, the Conseil des Arts et des Lettres du Québec, and the Conseil des Arts de Montréal. So today we welcome our 3 special guests representing these institutions for a panel discussion on the topic of demystifying the arts funding landscape. And hopefully in our exchanges, we can begin to do just that. And I think that this is going to be a really strong kickoff to the upcoming month of workshop and peer review sessions on grant writing. So please join me in welcoming at the center of the table here, Pablo Diconca, who is Program Officer, Explore and Create Program at the Canada Council for the Arts. I think we can clap. Right here at my right is Guillaume Thériault, who is chargé de programme pour la littérature et responsable des ententes de partenariat at the Conseil des Arts et des Lettres du Québec. And at the end of the table, our colleague is Ansfrid Chechenigbo, who is conseiller culturel, musique et relève artistique at the Conseil des Arts de Montréal. So we'll start here with a broad discussion. You'll have opportunities a little bit later to ask your own questions. I've asked the colleagues that, or I've mentioned to the colleagues that if they have difficulty with an answer or choose to speak in French, I'll probably jump in and rephrase in English so that everybody is on the same page with this discussion. So I'm going to start actually with a really, really big question for the 3 of you. I fully understand that we could never fully answer this question, but here goes. What makes a good grant proposal? Who wants to tackle that?
So is it on? Can you hear me? Perfect. Well, I feel first of all, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for inviting me today. I feel that it's a great opportunity. And actually the work we do at Council is to support artists and emerging artists like you might be. So these are great opportunities to, yes, demystify the process and to establish a contact, a real contact with a human, in my case, I'm an artist too. So yes, I feel that we can talk about the real approach, I will say, to apply to the Canada Council. For me, the most important thing is that you remember that you're talking to artists. So you're going to be evaluated by peers. So yes, you're applying for a grant to an institution, but the application, it's assessed by peers, by artists. So my biggest recommendation here will be to speak from your heart, to really say what you want to say, and to remember to talk about those questions. Let's say the what the project is, so the description of a project, the why, what are your motivations, what's your source of inspiration, then the when, so your calendar, the how much, the budget, with whom, so your collaborators, naming your collaborators, bringing biographies, letters of support. So once you get all those answers, you're going to be responding to the selection criteria. So that will be my first recommendation. Talk to your peers, and remember, always behind the question, the peers are going to be looking for the selection criteria. So we're talking about artistic merit, we're talking about the impact, and we're talking about feasibility. So when responding to all those questions, you're going to be talking in the why. You're going to be talking about your personal interest in developing this project. And yeah, I feel that would be my initial thought on that. Thank you.
And for you, Guillaume and Ansfred, what are some of the key points to always keep top of mind when you're writing one of those?
As you can see, I was nodding when Pablo was speaking, because I think it's the same thing for all of us. But the first word come in mind for me, it's clarity. Because sometimes we write and we have something in mind, and I say I don't write grants, but I read them, and you have to be really clear. You have to be really clear about your goals. You have to be really clear about what you want to propose, what you want to suggest, what you want to make, what you want to present. So sometimes be mindful about that. Be mindful that someone and many people are going to read your application, and they have to understand what you are proposing. So clarity and simplicity, if you can.
Je pourrais ajouter seulement que les membres de jury ont plusieurs demandes de bourse à évaluer. Donc, effectivement, tout ce que mes collègues ont dit, c'est exactement vrai aussi pour les jurys au calque. C'est simplement de aussi penser que les membres de jury, en fait, effectivement, sont des artistes comme vous, qui ne vous connaissent pas nécessairement. Donc, ça vaut la peine de vous introduire un peu à eux, mais assez rapidement d'arriver à, mais concrètement, qu'est-ce qu'il y a à financer? Quel est votre projet? Qu'est-ce que vous voulez faire avec qui vous voulez travailler, etc.
Great. So if I can jump in to paraphrase. So always bear in mind that the jury has a lot of files to look at. Do not take for granted that they actually know you. So you need to introduce yourself, but to do it very, very briefly, and to be very precise about what actually needs to be funded, right? So these programs, the Canada Council programs, they're designed for professional artists. What does that mean? So how do you judge, how do you consider who is a professional artist, and how does a recent graduate show that they fit in that category? What are the methods or the experience that they should put forward in order to enter that category for you?
Yes, I'm not going to try to define what a professional artist is, but what I'm glad to say today is that we have a profile for emerging career artists. Like in the past, it wouldn't be possible to apply if we wouldn't have a body of work to present and to show your ability to bring a project to term. Now, with this profile that's open since a couple of years, you can apply for a profile as an emerging artist, as I said, and you just have to show some training or some experience to be able to enter in competition, and you're going to be in competition among other artists that are at the same level. So you don't need to be a professional artist to apply now at the Canadian Council for the Arts.
Good.
At the Conseil des Arts de Montréal, we have a broad definition of professional artist. We don't have a specific program for emerging artists. We have initiatives, but not program per se. But I will say that if you are a student, if you have a degree in arts, and if you can show some work, so if you have even a collective exhibition, or if you display here at For Space or in any galleries, as long as you can prove that you're doing this with the goal to have a career in this field, you can be considered as a professional artist.
Au calque, les artistes, en fait, d'abord, il faut vous-même vous reconnaître comme un artiste, déjà. Et ensuite, vous pouvez avoir un parcours autodidacte sans nécessairement avoir une formation en art, en autant que vous avez au moins une expérience professionnelle artistique avant le dépôt de votre première demande de bourse. Donc, une expérience professionnelle, c'est généralement avec rémunération, pas tout le temps, mais généralement, dans un lieu reconnu par les pairs comme étant artistique. Donc, à partir du moment que vous avez une expérience artistique professionnelle, vous êtes considéré comme admissible au calque. Et il y a, comme pour le Conseil des arts de Montréal, il n'y a pas de programme spécifique pour la relève. Par contre, il y a une attention particulière à financer des artistes de la relève via nos programmes habituels.
Okay, so I think that was a good point. You really need to see yourself as an artist first and foremost, and having at least one professional experience. So an experience in a professional venue or being paid, depending on the nature of it. And what I noticed as well is you saying that there's actually a desire to encourage emerging artists across the three councils. In the case of Canada Council, in special programs, in the two others throughout their program. So that's actually really good to know. So somebody from who is a student, would they be considered while they are, in the process of doing a BFA or an MFA?
Ça me permet de rajouter que depuis le début de la pandémie COVID-19, le calque reconnaît en fait comme admissible les finissants qui sont dans des écoles d'art ou ayant terminé une formation récemment en art.
Okay, so having graduated from a university degree or arts college degree, makes you recognized as a professional artist at Calc. Good to know. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to shake things up a little bit, shake the order, because I think we're entering a pattern here, and I don't like it. So even for the most seasoned among us, submitting a grant is arduous and very, very complex. So are there resources for applicants that can help them clarify the process or give them methods to assemble their grant applications? So I will start with you, Guillaume.
Oui, les chargés de programme dont moi je fais partie et mes collègues, nous pouvons bien sûr répondre aux questions que vous avez par rapport au programme, par rapport à qu'est-ce qui est admissible ou pas, où est-ce que je peux trouver l'information, etc. Bien sûr, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter, surtout avant le dépôt de votre demande de bourse, pour qu'on puisse répondre à vos questions. Cependant, on ne va pas jusqu'à nous aider à vous conseiller stratégiquement, à réviser votre brouillon de demande de bourse, etc. Ça, par contre, on finance les associations professionnelles comme l'UNEC pour la littérature, comme le Conseil québécois du théâtre pour le théâtre, etc., qui peuvent, eux, donner des formations et aider en ce sens. Il y a aussi les conseils régionaux de la culture qui sont dans chaque région du Québec, qui peuvent aider exactement pour ça.
Okay, you're making me work hard. Okay, so program officers can help with the logistics of the grant writing. So don't hesitate to call them before you send in the grant application, but they can't actually intervene in helping you with the content of the grant application, which makes sense. That would not be really fair. But Guillaume was saying that there are regional councils and other organizations that are disciplinary that can help or that will that have workshops to help you build your grant applications.
Si vous ne savez pas où les trouver, contactez-nous, on va vous rediriger aux bons endroits.
Great. So if you don't know which ones they are, you just call him.
We have a meeting information session for first application at the Conseil des Arts de Montréal. We have the next one is tomorrow, I think. No, in 2 days. Thursday at 10 a.m. And yes, association are good resources, and you have other organization. If you are, I don't know, le RAV. So for visual artists, you have Artopol, I think. We have Repère. I have my colleague for the cultural advisor for visual arts and digital arts. So she's the professional one for that. You can have, I think, help with Diversité Artistique Montréal. I think, yes, for English, and Ilan for English speakers can help write your grants. So you have many resources if you want to write. And like Guillaume said, we don't help you write it, but we will answer all the questions you have, and that's why we have a meeting for answer questions. And you can write, you can email us, you can phone us too.
Great, Pablo.
I like this formula because now my answer is going to be shorter. Yeah, what my colleagues said, and on top of that, we have at the Canada Council for the Art, I'm sorry, if you self-identify as having a disability, you can have application assistance. So you can have assistance to create your profile, to create the application, and to create also the final report if you need. So, thank you.
Great.
And all the rest.
Great. So that's for the preparation part, but then usually when we press send, I've had myself this experience, it goes into a black hole and we don't hear anything until we have a result. Can you tell us a little bit about what happens during that period, you know, the jury process, all of these kinds of things?
Okay, so it's really easy and it's not magical. So first you press send and the deadline comes, and we, cultural advisor, we receive all the application. We separate them among disciplines. So at the Conseil des Arts de Montréal, you have theater, you have visual arts, you have digital arts, you have music, theater, circus, performance arts, and dance, of course. You have a multidisciplinary sector, and you have non-artistical practices. So you have all those different discipline practices, and we read them. So cultural advisor read all of the application, and we see if they are eligible or not. If they are eligible, maybe sometimes there's something missing, and if it's really a small thing, we will call you. We will call you and say, oh, maybe you have a mistake in your budget, or maybe there's an ad missing or something, and we try to be as you say, manageable as we can. And when the application is complete and is deemed eligible, we will send them to the committee. So it's at the Conseil des Arts de Montréal, it's 7 persons. They will rate and evaluate your application. And after they rate separately, of course, we will have a session where everybody is at the same table. It was in Zoom during the pandemic. Now we try to do it in person, and they will discuss every application they have evaluated. And there's a consensus. So sometimes you have everybody saying, "Oh, that's a great application." Sometimes you have said, "I don't like it, but yeah, I will do it. Yeah, okay." And sometimes everybody say, "No, this one is bad. We don't recommend it." So at the end of that, we have all the evaluation, and we put them all together with all the grades, and we try to say, okay, with the amount we have available for this application, how we're gonna give them the money they ask for. So if you have a really great grade, you will have the more money. If you have really bad grade, you won't be recommended. And in between, it's in between. And after that, we have the committee, the committee, and they confirm everything, and you receive a letter via the platform. So our platform is Aurora, and they say, "Oh, you have received the response for your application," and you will see if it's granted or not. That's it.
Merci. Basically, it's the same process that we have at the Canadian Council for the Arts. So yes, we receive the applications, we do eligibility, we send it to peers, they read, we gather, we discuss the applications, they rank them, we meet again for a final ranking meeting, and then they make recommendations. So we have basically two sections in the ranking, what we call unsuccessful applications, and then recommended applications. So we send, as an officer, I send the recommended applications to the direction of the program, and they are going to apply the budget until the money runs out, and then those applications are going to become successful applications. Then we will have the recommended applications that they were. Actually, that word is important. They are recommended. The peers are saying, we recommend these applications to be supported, but then they also recommend the ranking. So they're going to recommend these applications to be at the top, in the middle, and then we have the unsuccessful, as we said. It takes, it takes up to 6 months to get a response, but you can always reapply, which before wasn't the case. So now you can apply until you get the funds or until you change your mind and do another project. Thank you.
Même chose pour nous, même procédure environ. Peut-être nous, on est en mesure de répondre à l'intérieur de 4 mois maximum pour notre programme général. Les membres de jury donc évaluent tous les dossiers à l'avance chez eux, et ensuite il y a une discussion. Donc, votre dossier va être analysé par tous les membres de jury. Il y a au calque, on leur demande de faire un classement des demandes de la meilleure à la pire, et ensuite de nous donner des indications de jusqu'où ils ont apprécié chacune des demandes et quel financement ils donneraient. Mais les décisions finales sont faites par le calque, donc on reçoit les recommandations de tous les jurys, et selon les enveloppes dont on dispose, les enveloppes monétaires, on vient à faire les choix au final de jusqu'où on peut aller dans le financement de chacun des classements. Donc, voilà.
So it takes up to 4 months at the calc, and like in the other councils, every single application is read. But one of the things that you all mentioned is that your committees will rank the applications, but then there's just so many funds to go around. And so you might have some applications that are ranked for funding or that are seen favorably, but they are not funded because it's just simply not possible. So do you want to add something on that?
No, I wanted to say that it's 3 months for
months?
us. Yeah, but you're right. Sometimes you have a no, but it's not because your project was not well received. It's because the budget is too small for everybody to get recommended. So it's really good to ask why and have the feedback, because sometimes we say, oh, it was really competitive this time, so maybe try the other time. For us at Conseil des Arts de Montréal, you can only apply once a year, so you have to wait for the other year, but the next year. But sometimes it's really because there were not enough budget to give you money, but not because the application was not good enough.
So you touched upon my follow-up question, actually, Ansfred. Are there some mechanisms, or what are the mechanisms for people to receive feedback on how their application was received in order to improve it?
Yes, because during the meeting of the committee, we cultural advisor, we take notes and try to keep the comments they make about your application. And when you call us for feedback, we will try to give you the more explanation and the more comments, more feedback we can about your application.
De notre côté, au Calque, on a déjà fait ce genre de travail de rétroaction qu'on parle, donc de commentaires après les évaluations. Proche de la pandémie, on n'a plus été en mesure de le faire à cause qu'il y avait des choix à faire au niveau de la quantité de demandes qu'on a reçues et on continue à en recevoir beaucoup. Donc, il fallait faire des choix et malheureusement, la rétroaction n'était plus disponible depuis environ le début de la pandémie. Maintenant, on recommence à tranquillement redonner de la rétroaction, mais c'est seulement en ce moment avec certains volets du programme général, pas tous. Et progressivement, on va recommencer, mais via sans doute un document écrit qui va donner certaines précisions plus que oui ou non, vous avez l'argent.
So at Calc, since around the beginning of the pandemic, because of questions of resources, it was no longer possible to give this retroaction to applicants. But in the last few months, in the last competition, now? In the future. Okay, so starting now, since now, there will be, for some specific programs, some retroaction, and they're hoping to grow this possibility, but do it in writing at the moment of sharing the results. Super. Pablo?
And that will be the case also at the Canada Council. I'm really sad to say that we don't give feedback at the moment, and they're the same reasons since the pandemic. We had to cut because also we had a huge volume of applications, and it was really not feasible. But I know how important this is for artists to know, because when we gather artists, the peers, they express, and they don't just say, I like it or not, but they say why. And then, I would prefer to be able to give feedback, but it's not feasible in terms of the number of requests. And yes, we're working on the same idea of releasing through the portal, a written feedback. But I want to also say, this brings me to the point that I touched at the beginning, how important it is to create links, because yes, we can give feedback, but we can answer all the questions that you might have about the application, about the budget, and I can even take the time to break down the selection criteria. So we don't just talk about those titles, but what what do they mean? How are they interpreted by our peers? So I can maybe share that kind of resource. So I really encourage you to call us.
Great, thank you. Grants are often associated with singular projects or one-offs. Is there some concern in the councils towards career sustainability for artists? And does that somehow figure in the adjudication process?
Je vais répondre à cette question en français.
Okay.
Parce qu'elle est technique. Alors, oui, c'est pris en compte. Parce que justement, en fait, on peut, pour le même projet, déposer à plusieurs phases, en fait, du projet. Et oui, en fait, les membres des comités siègent pendant 3 ans aussi pour que, justement, ils aient une perspective de la progression des organismes et des artistes, des collectifs d'artistes qui déposent, en fait. Donc, je pense que c'est quelque chose qui est vraiment pris en compte, en fait, dans la façon dont on évalue les dossiers et comment on pense au fait que un projet, un organisme qui dépose, un collectif d'artistes qui dépose va durer dans le temps.
Okay, so yes, career sustainability is very much considered, and some of the examples that Ansfried gave is that you can apply for projects at different phases, so not just one-offs that are really circumscribed, but things that will take several years to achieve. And it's also why there is members of the juries will sit for 3-year periods, and there's probably a rollover that ensures that the committee is able to see career paths grow for artists as well as for organizations. Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you.
It's the case also at the Canada Council. You can apply for several stages of a project. And we have also, for more established artists, what we call the composite application for conceptualization. The conceptualization component, it's part of the Explore and Create program. So this is a component destined to the research, the creation, the production, and the dissemination of a project. And once you have had 2 successful grants in your history, in your application history, then you can apply to what we call the composite conceptualization application. In a composite application, you're going to align 2 to 3 projects that are going to be developed in 2 to 3 years. So that's a way to maybe seeing a more long-term in terms of career development.
De notre côté aussi, au Calque, on a à cœur le soutien à long terme des artistes, aussi par phase. Ça peut être, les demandes de bourse peuvent être déposées par phase. Les montants ont été augmentés assez récemment. En 2020, notre programme général de bourse a été révisé et permet de financer, par exemple, des projets en création jusqu'à hauteur de 50 000 $. Et il y a un nouveau volet, donc component, de notre programme général qui permet de financer, un peu comme le financement composite, de financer plusieurs projets concomitants en 2 ou 3 ans. C'est possible maintenant avec le programme général. Si vous avez des questions là-dessus, vous pourrez me les poser directement.
Okay, so some of the strategies at Calc resemble the other ones that you've heard. So bigger funds, the possibility to ask for interrelated projects, and actually I will just direct them to your table for more detail on this, because I want to actually take a little bit of the time that we have left to talk about the bigger picture for your 3 councils. All of the artistic institutions, the university as well, we've been hit by the pandemic, it's changed our relationship or our understanding of what is a sustainable career, of what is the role of arts in society. We also lived through other events that were really important for our society, including the Black Lives Matters, the death of Joyce Echequan. I mean, there's been a lot of things happening over the past few years. So I'm wondering how those structural societal changes are affecting your organizations and how they might actually affect the strategic directions that you're taking in terms of, for example, are there some artistic profiles that in the past were overlooked that are receiving new attention today? Are you thinking of new approaches to encourage different practices or different groups to participate? It's a big question.
So at the Conseil des Arts de Montréal, I would say that before those events, there were really a strategy to reach for those marginalized and not usually funded communities. And since those events, I think we just pursue in that direction. We just have our new strategic plan for the next 3 years. And we have specific programs for those communities, and we try to reach the goal of 25% of our budget to go to those communities. So since 2018 at the Conseil des Arts de Montréal, we have an indigenous program. We have a specific program for artists in the diversity diversité ethno-culturelle, so I won't say cultural diversity. And so we try to be really mindful about the representation on our committee, on our boards, and even in the team. So yes, those things are really important for us. And in our new strategic plan, we focus on environment aspect and eco-responsibility too. Yeah.
I go. Yeah, at the Canada Council for the Arts, we also have strategic investment priorities. So the way that this works, just to make it clear, is that we spoke about the ranking, and I spoke also about the budget. So let's say the budget is going to cover the first percentage of the list, but then once the budget is finished, we can still apply different envelopes. So envelopes destined for Indigenous artists, called diverse cultures, different disability, and official language minority communities, which would be an Anglophone in Quebec, for example. So yeah, those are.
Good to know.
Au calque aussi, même chose, les priorités stratégiques vont à des groupes effectivement qui peut-être étaient moins soutenus auparavant et qui là il y a une veille en fait qui est menée par le calque pour s'assurer qu'il y ait un financement adéquat qui soit fait à toutes sortes de communautés, autant, et mes collègues en ont déjà parlé, diversité culturelle, Premières Nations, handicap, même les communautés LGBTQ, et les demandes peuvent être écrites les demandes peuvent être écrites en anglais pour les demandes de bourse. Donc, si vous déposez une demande à titre individuel, à votre nom et non pas au nom d'un organisme, vous pouvez écrire en anglais votre demande.
Great. So I'm sure that all of your ears pricked up that you can write your applications in French or in English at the Calque. I'm assuming it's the...
You can write your application in English if it's for an artist collective. If it's for a non-profit, you have to write it in French. But if it's for a collective of artists, you can write it in English. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. And what I'm hearing also is that in all of your councils, you're making a lot of efforts, not just to disperse grants to the diversity, but also to follow up and see if it's adequate and to adjust in real time. Great. I think I'm going to turn it over to the floor for questions. Jax has a microphone. She's going to grab one. There you go. So just raise your hand if you have a question to ask.
Hi, we were just speaking about the languages and stuff. I'm sure you heard the rumor that if you have better chances to get a grant at Calc if you write in French, you have better chances to get the grant at CAC and if you write in English. I don't know if you have anything to say about that rumor.
It wouldn't be the case in the Canadian Council for the Arts. We have, for the moment, we still have committees in French and we have committees in English. So it's a separate competition. And we have the same successful rate for both competitions. So, rumor.
Au Calc, on a comme je vous disais, comme individu, vous pouvez autant déposer des demandes en français ou en anglais, comme vous le désirez. Il y a des jurys qui évaluent ces demandes en simultané, en général. Il y a quand même, en littérature, je tiens à le souligner, vu que le langage est le matériau de base, il y a un jury en littérature spécifiquement en anglais, qui est composé d'anglophones. Mais sinon, en général, les demandes sont évaluées par des jurys qui évaluent des demandes en français et en anglais. Et il y a, comme je vous disais, au-delà du classement que le jury fait, il y a une veille que le Calc fait à ce que justement, il y ait des demandes en anglais qui soient financées. Et d'ailleurs, on souhaite en avoir davantage encore, des demandes en anglais, et on fait une veille là-dessus.
Well, that's really, really interesting. So, rumor, you say? So in literature, there are separate committees because the material of the art practice is language. Otherwise, the juries are bilingual. But there is a strong interest in maintaining a diversity of languages. And so, again, in real time, you're carefully reviewing how many applicants there are and what their success rates are. And Guillaume said it, you all heard it, there needs to be more applications in English. Any other questions? Jax is coming.
You're first.
This is a very straightforward question for Conseil des Arts de Montréal. I know that you provide funding for organizations and artist collectives, but can individual artists also apply for grants from Conseil des Arts de Montréal?
That's a really good question. Unfortunately, no. And it's because of the budget limits, I think. And we have initiatives and residencies for individual artists. So sometimes for prizes and for residency, you can apply, but for general program and project assistance, individual artists can't apply.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is actually a follow-up question to the last one. Is there any information online of a breakdown of what is a artistic collective? Like, how do you let's say you have a project and you want to bring in collaborators. Is it better to submit as a collective, or how does that work?
Yeah. So the definition of an artist collective is on our website on the glossary, and basically it's when two professional artists try to work on a project together and apply. It's an artist collective. So if you want to bring collaborators, they don't have to be artists and they can be part of the collective, but you have at least to have two artists working on the project.
Thanks.
Hi. Would you
say you make some kind of differentiation between the kind of spaces that the projects are being presented with. For example, would you accept a project at an artist center, for example, more than one that's presented at a cultural center, for example?
It's a good question. I think it will have an influence on the reception of the committee, but it's not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker. It's not like if you show your work here and not here, you won't have the grant. But it will have some kind of influence on the grade.
Would that have some impact in the other councils? I'm kind of thinking the idea of sustainability again, of some projects traveling to many locations. Would that be seen as positive or?
Yeah, actually, again, I try to go back to the criteria, the selection criteria. So after the artistic merit, you have the impact and the feasibility. The artistic merit, the Canada Council for the Art takes half of the score, but then you have the impact that takes 30% and the feasibility. Having aligned several presentations, in the case of, I'm talking about our conceptualization component, could give more, a greater note in terms of impact or feasibility. Why? Because you already have confirmation. If you have a letter that's confirming that you're going to have a presentation, that's maybe going to be more impactful, that you're looking for a venue. Now, there's the case also where you self-present, and that's totally valid too. In that case, let's say you're renting a venue or you're doing some in situ presentation or outdoors or in a public space, that's also valid. And it's going to be the way you describe the project. And again, all those answers to all those questions, responding to the criteria. So if you don't have that impact because you don't have the letter, then maybe you can develop on how this project is going to impact your practice, how it's going to impact maybe the field of practice, how it's going to impact the community around. And that can be also well received, very well received, actually.
I'll try in English. Be careful with it depends in which program you apply for. It's sure that if it's in a program or a component of the general program where is more research, maybe you can be even in your home and doing the project and is a good project. But if you apply in a program where it's for la tournée, so for to present your show at many places, maybe yes, the program will ask you to have some proof and letters and all of different partners, just to be sure that you will not be alone to present the show to we don't know who. So it depends. So read carefully the criteria of the program you choose. And sometimes, yes, it's really important. And sometimes, no, it depends of the kind of project you make.
I think we have a question via live stream. Anna?
Yes, thank you. And thanks.
We can't hear you.
Thanks, Rehan, for the question. Nice to see you here. Alrighty, I'll just read it out for all. Preparing a grant project takes lots of time. How do we know which type of grant could be best for which organization? Is it a good idea to break the budget and submit simultaneously to 2 organizations in order to have a better chance?
Je reviens en français. Au calque, vous pouvez déposer la même demande de bourse à plusieurs, au calque et au Conseil des arts du Canada. C'est possible. Par contre, si c'est pour financer les mêmes étapes, les mêmes activités d'un même projet et que vous obtenez des réponses favorables de toutes parts, vous devez choisir l'une des bourses parce que le calque ne peut pas financer des frais qui sont déjà soutenus par ailleurs. Mais par contre, juste pour compléter, désolé, il est cependant possible aussi de présenter un budget qui nécessite plusieurs sources de financement pour couvrir toutes les dépenses. Dans ce cas-là, c'est expliqué dans votre budget et s'il y a une réponse favorable du calque et de d'autres, ben là, oui, vous pouvez garder toutes les bourses obtenues parce que vous avez expliqué dès le départ que vous aviez besoin de toutes ces bourses pour financer, pour réaliser votre projet.
That makes a lot of sense. So you can actually ask at Calc anyways, and we'll find out later if it's true of the other councils, but it's not a problem for you to ask for the same project at different councils. However, if you receive the grant from Calc and other councils, you have to choose. Calc will not fund a project that is funded elsewhere. However, it is possible in your budget to determine that parts of the project is better funded at Calc and another part by another council or funding body. And therefore, when you receive your answers, Calc will not have a problem funding you the part that is only funded by Calc, and that will add to the other montage financier. So you're contaminating me now.
Because it's not a problem if you. It's not a problem if you explain it at the beginning that in your budget in the application form that you need the different revenues sources to finance all the expenses that you have to make for the project.
I'll let you continue on that to see what your perspective is.
Merci, Guillaume. We have the same approach. So yeah, I feel that in the end, this is a strategical approach. So you can aim to put all the requests in one council. You can also divide it. In the case that you need more money than our maximum, that would be normal to have both resources. But also, if you need less than the maximum amount, you can divide it, and you can try maybe half and half, or yeah. I feel that this is related also to a historical approach, depending on discipline. I will say, let's say in film, it will be more, yeah. I'm making generalities here, but yeah, maybe to have a diversified structure, funding structure in the budget. While maybe in other practices, I believe that in visual arts, applicants, they go for a full amount to make the project. So you can do both. What I would say, maybe something positive is like maybe you get the calc, you get a yes from calc, so that letter is going to have a lot of weight in the application to the Canada Council for the Art. Why? Because there's already a partner implicated in there. So in that sense, this is what I recommend sometimes, is to divide the budget. But this is if you can wait, because maybe you're going to have a yes and a no, and then you're going to have to reapply with us in 6 months. So it depends on the calendar. If you're tight in the calendar, maybe it's better to apply to one funding source, and maybe you can diversify if you have time, and you can maybe reapply if you get a no. Because having some funding, it's a big leverage for the peers when they are thinking about the feasibility, for example.
It's the same approach for Conseil des Arts de Montréal, and we encourage you to apply and submit at the other councils, because we will fund your project up to 70% of the total budget. So even if your project is really well recommended, and if it has a really great grade, you won't receive the total amount of your budget. So it's better, and we recommend you to apply at other institutions and other councils.
And I think looking at the calendar, like Pablo explained,
Yes,
is a
it's
really good
important,
strategy.
Yeah.
And also the rhythms, if you can only apply once a year or
Exactly.
multiple times
Yeah.
a year. Right. Are there other questions? Oh, there's one over there.
Hello, thank you for everything you've been saying so far. My question is about the diversity aspect that you were talking about earlier. So with diversity comes like barriers sometimes. Like, for example, maybe someone who's like in a certain marginalized group doesn't have time to attend a workshop like this, for example, so not have all the information to apply for a grant, or like there are cultural barriers that makes it that like some people don't express themselves in like a high language level or something. So I was just wondering, like, what is it you take into consideration when you are trying to be inclusive of different diverse groups, because that implies also different access to culture, resources, etc. Like in your demands, are you very tight with grammar, for example, or like, yeah, just like different barriers that can like potentially be seen as a less great application, but because of like cultural barriers or like, yeah, lack of resources, lack of time to, like I said, attend a workshop like this that answers some questions that would help with the application otherwise. Is that clear?
Yes, it is a really good question. At Conseil des Arts de Montréal, sometimes we try to work with leaders in communities. So we don't do the workshop ourselves. We try to teach leaders of communities how to present the workshop and try how to present our programs, and ask them what would be the best options if you want to reach those persons. So that's one way to do it. And for the writing grants and the grammar part, no, we won't judge you, won't judge badly the application because there's some error in the grammar or something like that. And so we try to have different people around the table to represent the diversity and the differences in our society. So yeah, it's taken in consideration too.
So just to be clear, just to make sure that I understand you well, you're more interested in clarity rather than the grammar or style of writing. Would that be the same for everybody here?
Yes, totally. Clarity and yeah, going to the point is very, very important because peers, they're assessing, I will say, 100 of applications. So how do you do for that application to, yeah, you know, like to stay in the mind of peers and to remember? So yeah, clarity. And I will emphasize what you just said about the representation. We really make a strong emphasis in having social representation in our committees. That's our goal, and I feel yeah, that another point will be also to have more presence with those underserved communities, and I feel that that's our job to really make the point in the outreach very well targeted, because this is public funds. These are public funds, so you're entitled to ask for that money. Anyone in Canada.
Exactly. As my colleague says, it's the same to Calc. There's many different answers to your question, because jury composition, it's sure. We also have specific programs. So some marginalized artists can apply, yes, in the general program if they want. But we have also have specific program like Vivacité for cultural diversity. We have Reconnaître for First Nations. So we have some specific program for them if they want to apply, or they can apply in the general program. And if they have question before they apply, they can ask us first. They can contact us. It's why also we make many presentation like this one now. We answer yes when some association or communities ask us to explain our programs, or so we try to and we also have now some capsule video, some videos on our website, both in French and English, to explain our programs, to explain verbally how you can make a good application. So it's all even in our YouTube channel officially. So we try to multiply these different way to be present to artists from diversity, global diversity.
I'm really sorry that I'm going to have to close the conversation now because I really feel we could have gone on for 1 or 2 more hours. And I really want to thank the audience for the really fabulous questions that you asked. I also want to thank our panelists for taking the time to speak with us, to share your wisdom, your experience, and your generosity and your perspective on all of this. For an artist, as we all know, refining the grant writing process is absolutely crucial, but it's also a lifelong journey. I can speak from experience. This is something that you'll continue getting better at, and working with the peers and having these kinds of conversations is helpful for all of us. I also want to thank the people who joined us via live stream. And I will say that this marks the end of the live stream event so that all of the people present here can start to mingle and discuss at this informal tabling fair. And I will give the last word to Anna Vaclavek.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Annie. Maybe a round of applause for everyone. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you so much. And yeah, folks on Zoom, thank you for your comments and your questions there. We are going to close the live stream in that space now. And for the folks in the space, so bye everybody on Zoom.